Welcome to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show on Building Fortunes Radio with your host, motivational speaker Greg Dwyer. Be sure to check out Greg at www.gregdwyer.com. That's www.gregdwyer.com. Now on to our show. Take it away, Greg.
Hi, everyone. My guest today is Doug O'Brien. There are a lot of people out there that talk about change work, hypnosis, NLP. This person, friend of mine, an expert, is going to tell you, or share with you, I should say, how to make changes not only in your own life, but also in the lives of people that you know, clients, prospects. Doug O'Brien, thank you for being on the podcast.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Gregory.
Well, I've known you for years, and I don't know if you remember how we met. Do you remember the story?
Now you really... I don't know if I should have called you. You're testing my memory. I hate that. I remember from a long time ago, but what's the first time? I don't remember the first time.
Yeah, so what happened was I was in Orlando. I was at a conference, a business conference. I was working at a college at the time, and I'm in this restaurant. I think it was Red Lobster, and I'm at the bar because it's completely packed. And next to me, people are talking about Richard Bandler, and they're talking about NLP. And I'm thinking, what? This is crazy. So I said, excuse me, I don't mean to be rude, but Richard Bandler? And they said, yeah, he's next door tomorrow and the next day and the next day. It's like a $4,000 or $5,000 seminar. And I'm like, no way. So I was just in Orlando for a few days, and I went and I knocked on the door and I said, listen, I'm only in for a couple hours. Can I sit in for an hour? They said, be our guest. And I was going through some traumatic things with my relationship with my wife at the time. And I said to Richard during the break, can I ask you a question? He goes, yes, you just did. I said, all right, I want to ask you another one. I live in Connecticut. Who could I reach out to? He goes, Doug O'Brien. And that was it. And the rest is history.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I mean, I'll never forget it.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'd never forget it. I mean, that's pretty cool, right?
That is very cool. That's very cool. I didn't even know Richard remembered me. But
yeah.
I also remember you from a long, long time ago, and you came to me for my offices in New York City to work on some stuff, and it was you were a very memorable person. You had a lot of really fascinating things to say, and I thought, well, why does this guy need my help? Seriously, there's people that walk into my office and go like, okay, I don't know if I can help this person. This person needs serious help, and I'm not sure it's possible. But then there's other people, and I don't mean to be flattering or anything, but there's other people that really seem to have something about them that's kind of unique and special. And I thought, wow, I would like to know this guy, but let's see how I can be of service in the meantime.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think everyone needs a coach, Doug, whether you're just starting out in life or business or you're really good at what you do. Tony Robbins recommends you, so that carries a lot of credibility. You've been around the NLP world. You've been around the sleight of mouth world. You've been around the hypnosis world. And you're a person that has really, truly invested your focus in these modalities. And so, as we were talking earlier before this call, you're not going to be doing this forever, but you're going to be sharing this information coming in April. So I want to talk about this course that you have coming up where you're doing training in NLP, in sleight of mouth, and in hypnosis. Can you tell me about it, our listeners about it?
Certainly. Yeah, I'm coming from a background of being a musician. I'm a piano player. I was a classically trained pianist. In that world, it's not about who your teacher is. It's about, can you take in the information and then do it? In other words, can you play your instrument? Can you make that music? It's not like you go to a piano teacher and he says, okay, I'm going to play Beethoven for you, and he's so good that makes you good. It doesn't matter how good he is or she is. I've had some great teachers, but I've also recognized that if I'm going to get good at this particular skill, I've got to invest time. I've got to invest time and intention and energy to really get it so that I can do it. I can do NLP as well as Tony Robbins, sort of thing. Now, I'm not saying I can do NLP as well as Tony Robbins, but that's the goal. right? I want to be like Richard. I want to be able to do NLP as well as Richard Bandler can. I want to do hypnosis as well as, Milton Erickson can. Again, probably impossible goals, but that's the goal. You want to be able to do it, not just talk about it. And then do it when people like Gregory Dwyer walk into your office and they say, I need some help. You say, okay, well, let me use these skills. So I recognize that it requires that in order to actually gain the skills to be able to do it yourself. And so when I start teaching it, I'm again realizing that my students want to be able to do it. They don't want me to just demonstrate it and say how clever I am. They want to be able to walk out when they're done and say, I can do this too. I can do this as well as Doug O'Brien can, right? So when I teach these classes, I teach them over time. It's not a quick one weekend thing. I teach it over months. And the wonderful thing about Zoom, and I hate to say this, thank God for COVID, it changed the world. I teach these classes once a week. We meet for a couple hours every week for months, for 4 months. We do this for 4 months. And people really get a chance to learn it, to integrate it into their DNA, into their muscle memory, so they can really do sleight of mouth. They can really do NLP. They can really do these things when necessary, when it's, in the moment, when they've got the client walking into their office, or they're in that argument with their special someone, or whatever it might be. They've got the skills at their fingertips.
Right. Yeah, I remember talking to Richard Bandler not only about you, but we were talking about NLP, and he says, Greg, anybody with a printer can start their own NLP course and print out a certificate of completion and give it to somebody, and they spend $90 or $100, and they're not really a practitioner. They don't really have the mindset or the heart to really make a difference. And at that point, it's maybe just mechanical, and it's just about, getting people to go through a class. But you're different. Let's talk about the credibility. Who have you coached with? I mean, there's a lot of people that you have worked with, people that are alive still, people that have passed. Who are your mentors?
Well, you've mentioned a couple of them already. I learned my first NLP certification courses from Tony Robbins. People may not know this, but Tony Robbins was an NLP trainer. He taught trainings in NLP, and that's where I went to first. I was a musician, as I said. I had no idea who these people were. I had no desire to become a NLP practitioner or a therapist of any kind. I needed work. I needed some help of my own. I needed therapy. I needed work. So I started going to some of these seminars because I needed to change, needed to make my life better. So I went to Tony Robbins' Firewalk experience. I didn't know I was going to get trained in NLP along the way, but I finally did. I took this NLP certification course. While I was there, Richard Bandler came and did a day of training. Robert Dilts came and did a day of training. Dave Dobson came and did a day of training. And so I went and said to myself, I need to go study with those guys too. So I did. Right. I did NLP trainings with Richard Bandler. I did NLP trainings with Robert Dilts. I did the hypnosis trainings that Dave Dobson taught that he called Other Than Conscious Communication. And pretty much for a while, I was taking trainings from anybody who was teaching, basically. Right.
And there's probably a big difference, right, between people who are dabbling in this world and people that this is their world, like you. This is your world.
Yeah.
Right.
It is, yes. I do it full-time. I've been doing it full-time since 1990 as an occupation and a vocation. I'm a ridiculously obsessed person, I guess, because I keep reading books and taking classes from people that teach them.
Well, what do they say about, is it 100,000 hours or 10,000 hours? It's a lot of hours,
Yeah.
This idea that you focus on one thing and you just get really good at it.
Yeah, I think the number is 10,000, but my numbers are well over that at this point. Yeah.
Well, to someone that is brand new, someone that's a novice, someone that is not so trained in this as you are, how would you explain NLP to someone that's never heard about it before?
Well, first of all, Neuro-Linguistic Programming starts with this metaphor that your brain is like a computer. That's even where the name comes from, the neuro-linguistics. If you want to program a computer, you need to understand the computer language. Well, this brain, that's this computer up there between your ears, has a neurological language. So the neuro-linguistics is what it's all about. The programming language of your brain is the neuro-linguistics. So then if you understand the neuro-linguistics, then you can program your brain. You can get the results out from the computer that you want rather than the sort of factory presets that have been foisted on you by those amateur hypnotists called your parents and teachers and things.
Yeah,
so the idea basically
seems
behind NLP. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I didn't want to interrupt it. That's fine.
I was just going to say the basic premise is that if somebody is really good at a particular ability, like if somebody's a really good piano player, if somebody's a really good salesperson, if somebody's a really good therapist, that they're using their computer, they're using their brain, they're using their body-mind kind of connection thing, they're using the whole system in such a way that allows them to have that ability, So if we can then take that, essential program that they're running and install it in our own computer and in ourselves, then we can get the results from ourselves that they're getting from themselves. So we can, become the person we want to be.
So save a lot of time by modeling somebody that already has what you want, if it's sales or if it's business or if it's anything that you admire somebody. Well, for instance, you are a change agent, and so if someone is looking to make change in their life, well, first of all, you have done that for yourself, and you also do that for clients. So if there's someone that's struggling with a relationship problem or they're struggling with a money issue or they're having issues with their business, modeling you by spending time with you and saying, hey, how does this guy Doug O'Brien recreate reality, then that's a modeling thing that would work very well. Am I right?
Yeah, no, that's certainly a possibility. That is not what I offer people in these classes, just to be fair, just to be clear. But sure, they could model me, they could model anybody. They could model Gregory Dwyer. I mean, goodness gracious, you're doing extraordinary stuff in the world. Well,
what I'm saying is, I had coaches like you and other people and mentors. But what I'm saying is, when you hang around somebody like Doug O'Brien and you're there for, what are we talking, an hour and a half, couple times a week? Is that what we're talking?
Well, it depends. Well, I'm offering right now a membership. So what we're doing is we're learning sleight of mouth on Tuesday for an hour and a half. We're doing NLP in general, just general NLP on Wednesdays for an hour and a half. And we're doing what I call Neo-Ericksonian Hypnosis on Thursdays for an hour and a half. And then we also have some other supplemental things that go on as well. But that's the main thrust of it right there.
Well, my point is, being immersed in this, the course, you can't help but be influenced. People can't be helped by influence, because we're all influencing each other, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So sleight of mouth. Where does that come from, other than the magical connection with sleight of hand? I mean, is that deception? Is that manipulation? Where did this come from?
Very, very excellent questions, Gregory. And you might think that based on the language of it, the sleight of mouth thing, it sounds like you're tricking somebody, that there's manipulation involved. But what it is, it's kind of just, it seems magical because it is so effective. It's a persuasion skill. And it is, in fact, actually a NLP modeling of Richard Bandler's persuasion skills. So it's kind of NLP modeling NLP, if you will. Robert Dilts modeled Richard Bandler's persuasion skills and codified it so people like me can learn it. So I can become as persuasive as Bandler was, to learning how the system works.
Right. Well, the other thing too is you have all these foundational people, John Grinder, Richard Bandler, and all these other people. Eventually, they pass the torch on to the next generation, and I would, in my eyes, you're one of them because you've dedicated many, many years to this.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that, what you just said. And I will also just say this about myself. I don't like to toot my horn very well, but I'm a teacher. when I was used to teach piano lessons, and when I was teaching at the Brooklyn Conservatory of Music, I often was voted, teacher of the year. I was like basically teacher of the year for 6 years running, because it's just I've dedicated myself to how do you give it to another? How do you pass the information on to another person? How do you get it so that they can do it too? And so
right.
I think I'm good at it. I think I'm pretty good at teaching NLP. I think I'm pretty good at teaching sleight of mouth. And the reason we do it every week for 4 months is because it also takes time. As good as a teacher as I may be, people need to do it. People need to put in the hours of their own to master the skills. And so that's what we're offering in this class.
So we're at the halfway point. I'm looking at the time here. It's 15 minutes in. We have a half an hour. So how do folks find your website so they can sign up for this course in April?
Well, it's really quite simple. My website is called theessentialcoachingskills.com. And when I started thinking about creating this website, it was really for a reason that was I thought these skills are essential. I've seen coaches out there, life coaches out there who make a good living, I guess. They do well as coaches. But I thought to myself, well, how can they do that? How can they actually do any sort of coaching without real basic NLP skills? I mean, these are essential skills. So I thought, well, let's create a website. Let's create a learning platform that teaches essential coaching skills. So that's what this is. This is essential coaching skills, and it has those 4 elements. So how do you really help a person not only change a behavior in the short term, but sort of change their beliefs about who they are and what they're capable of, and how they interact in the world. How do you help them to get to that point?
Yeah. Well, I have never shared this with you before, but I've been around this for about 25 years. And, I got serious in the last 10 years of studying it. But one of the things for me as a staple was Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And the other book was The Magic of Believing. And I heard about these books. I've read these books before. But, Doug, I never made the connection with the subconscious mind or the unconscious mind in the sense that it's pretty much running the show. So if you're telling a person, listen, you need to be successful in sales, you need to be successful at the piano, you need to be successful here. But if a person is walking around with limited self-beliefs or low self-esteem, or their identity is based on a decision that they made when they were 5, I think change is difficult unless that changes.
So unless what changes? Their identity from that point?
Yeah, the identity, the unconscious beliefs, the values that are pretty much automatic. Telling a person how to change or how to not smoke, or, I think there's underlying, unconscious things that are running the show.
Okay, got it. Yeah,
and that's my segue to hypnosis. I thought I'd bring the hypnosis in.
You're doing beautifully, man.
I really truly believe that the only way you can get to this is using the NLP and using the sleight of mouth, and then using hypnosis, which you're known for as well. Yeah,
no, it's really true. I think hypnosis is that. Exactly what you've just described. It is the unconscious, Dave Dobson referred to as the other than conscious, basically operating system that's running all the time. That is, It is who you are. It is who you are.
Right.
And then Richard Bandler modeled Milton Erickson, but to my way of thinking, all this stuff boils down to or goes back to its origins, which is Ericksonian hypnosis. And Erickson was this amazing genius who really realized that we kind of live in a state of trance all the time. We are basically in a trance all the time. So it's not a question of can you be hypnotized or not. The question is, can you kind of wake up? Can you kind of get out of the trances that we've been in your whole life, that again, foisted on us by amateur hypnotists, if you will, like our parents or teachers or religious leaders
Right.
or whomever was influential back in creating our identity back in those days. Can you change and alter that trance and start to put yourself in more appropriate trances, more functional trances? Can you shift to a more functional trance? And that's kind of the question ultimately.
And I have seen you do that. I have seen you help me in my life shift reality in that regards. And what I love about this, Doug, is it seems to me like real magic. Like if you can change a frog into a prince, if you can help somebody change their identity to lose weight or to be a better coach or to be a better father, husband, or wife, or whatever, business person, it's life-changing.
Yeah, for sure. That's of course the point. It is life-changing. And the thing about learning how to do these skills is you can do it for other people. Obviously, you can be a coach, you can be a hypnotherapist, you can use these tools for people in a sort of therapeutic context, if you will. But you can also do it for yourself. Once you know how this stuff works, you can do it for yourself. And I regularly do. I do self-hypnosis as a daily activity.
Right. Yeah, so do I. So do I. So this course would be for someone that's never, ever been involved with these modalities. It's brand new to them, right? It would also be good for a person that has had some information. Maybe they took a certification course or maybe they read a book. And it's also for someone that's really good at it and just wants to get better. So any group of people, as long as they're open to be coachable, they could benefit from this.
That's very well said. You are very articulate. You should have like a podcast or something. You're really good.
I would. Here's my dream. I would love to have a podcast and bring on interesting people like you.
You should do it, man. You should totally do that.
Hey, listen, I have to say this. How is your book doing? Because you're an Irishman. I'm an Irishman. You just came out with this book last year. I remember the development of it, the whole thing about storytelling. Let's talk about stories, because stories are in the Bible, Doug. They're in history. You talk about stories. What about stories?
Well, as you said, they're everywhere. Stories are everywhere. And I did write a book recently called The User's Guide to Storytelling. And so the whole idea there is, how do you tell your story well? And, how do you tell your story? How do you write your story? How do you create your story in a way that people will want to hear it? And then how do you actually tell it well so that they can, really, getting it across the footlights, if you will, have it really be something that people can enjoy hearing. So I wrote this book. I did a lot of research on how that works. What's important in a story, what makes people want to hear the story, how do you craft the story so that it has a turning point at a certain place, it captures their attention. There's an art form to it, and I realized that people who are good at it maybe just intuited that art form. They just happen to be good at it. But it doesn't mean we can't learn it if we're not one of those naturally gifted storytellers with the gift of blarney, as some of us are from the great old island, if you will.
Oh, yeah. I've been in Ireland. I've stopped somebody for directions, Doug, and 25, 30 minutes go on. The guy's telling me, and I say, hi, are you here from your whole life? You've been born here? No, I haven't lived here my whole life. I'm hoping to live longer. But, yeah, people love to tell stories. But here's what I want to know. When you did all of this research, and you have an online course about storytelling as well, did you, I'm sure you did, but did you apply this to your life in the sense of looking at your life, as a musician, now as a coach, this idea of the story arch or the hero's journey, it must connect with you on some level, right?
Yeah. And you could get into a whole therapeutic thing about stories. It's a coaching kind of opportunity. Stories have meaning for it, but we also tell ourselves stories about who we are. We have our sort of self-story about, I was born in this situation, so that's the way I am. I'll always be this way because of my upbringing or whatever. You tell yourself these stories that are just, stories. They're just made up. They're not really real, and you can change those stories. In fact, one of the processes in NLP that I use a lot and I teach always in my classes is called the change personal history. And it's a process where you go back and you sort of basically change your story. Who am I now? Because I did this differently after I changed my story. So you become the author of your own life. And it's really, it's powerful. It really is powerful. In a way, it's the generator of the trances that we live in.
The other day, I pulled out the CD that you made for me back in 2014, and I just bought a new CD. Yeah, I just bought a new CD player because, they don't make CDs anymore. People don't listen that way. So I got this CD player, and I said, I got to pop this in. So about 2 days ago, I dropped it in, and I listened to it, and it took me back to sitting in the chair in 2014. And then I reflected on how much I've changed and grown. But not only that, I was saying to myself, okay, now it's 2025. Where am I going to be in 2035? And when I woke up from the trance, I had a big smile on my face, because I realized that nothing is set in stone. And, if we can grow and we can change and we can grow to our full potential, the sky's the limit. And this work that you're doing, is wonderful, and I highly recommend it. We only have 4 minutes left. How, again, should people sign up for this course?
They should go to essentialcoachingskills.com and look for the 4-month cohort. It's a membership program. So right now it's listed as a year-long thing, because it is. It's a year-long membership that people can sign up for, but it's also a kind of thing they can do it monthly. There's a 4-month cohort. Will run from now for the next 4 months. It starts April 1st. The classes, Sight of Mouth is on Tuesday, April 1st. NLP is on Wednesday, April 2nd. And we go from there, hypnosis on Thursday, April 3rd. And we continue for the next 4 months. Then we do start it all over again. We get another group of people in, but the people who sign up with the membership stay on, and they get better, and they get deeper understandings. It's a beautiful thing. It becomes a community of people who are like-minded and learning. And if you go to, this essentialcoachingskills.com and look for that course, they will find it there. The membership.
It's like the story you told me, and I can't remember who the woman was, but someone heard you play the piano one day, and they said, Doug, I would love to be able to play the way that you do. I wish I could do that. And your answer was?
But she actually said, I would give anything to play piano like you do. And I said, oh, really? She said, yes, I would give anything to play the piano like you. I said, well, here's what you do. Get yourself a piano, get yourself a really good teacher, and then do whatever they tell you to do for the next 8 years. Practice 4 to 5 hours a day, because that's what I did.
Right. Yeah, I know. So I don't want to scare anybody off. As we close, can you talk about your ease philosophy? Because I love it. I love the idea of ease. Maybe a little teaser.
Sure. It is kind of my little contribution to the NLP world, if you will. I haven't been one of those people that made up the old NLP processes, but ease is a way of looking at achievement to create an identity for yourself. You become a person, like, for instance, a writer is a person who writes every day. A runner is a person who runs every day. A musician is a person who practices their piano or whatever every day. What you do every day becomes who you are. So one of the ways you get that, becoming that writer, becoming that musician, becoming that athlete, is you do something every day. The challenge is that people sometimes think they've got to do like an extraordinary amount, like I just said, 4 to 5 hours a day. That'd be extraordinary, especially if you're just starting out. So that'd be extraordinary. That's the E for the top level of ease, but the other E at the bottom level, the 4 letters E-A-S-E, that stands for this acronym of ease, is an easy level. To give you something that's simple, you could easily do it. Instead of running 10 miles, I'm going to run around the block. Instead of running around the block, maybe I'll just walk up to the corner. But I did something. I put my sneakers on. I got outside. So that easy level gets the ball in motion. Gets the ball rolling. And then there's the E stands for easy. A stands for acceptable. So you get a little bit more than that. stretches where you're stretching yourself a bit. It's the S level for the E's. And then again, the second E is for extraordinary, which is great. Aim for it, but give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Give yourself a little, soft love, if you will, to say, I did something. It's good enough for today.
Right. Yeah, and what's nice about this is a person can sign up, take this month by month, dip their toe in the courses, and, if they don't get it all by 4 months, they can stay in another 4 months. The fact that you're live, the fact that these are pre-recorded, the fact that there's a support team, some of the closest friends that I've known from taking the courses myself, Doug, I still keep in touch with. And it's an amazing community. I don't want to call it a cult, Doug, but you know what it is.
I don't want to call it a cult, but I just, no, it's not a cult. That's terrible.
No.
Well, what it is.
No.
It's not. But it is a wonderful community. And people really do, as you said, keep in touch with each other. I get a little jealous sometimes because they say, I was just talking with Greg. I said, when's the last time you saw Greg? You said, I see him every week. Like, what? How come I'm not invited to these things? It's pretty amazing what you guys have really put together.
Well, the last time I saw you in person, you were giving a lecture on havening. Now, we don't have time to talk about it, but I got to tell you, the person that was in that chair literally shifted her mindset. And I'm sure you weren't just using havening. You were probably using other modalities like NLP and sleight of mouth. But, I've been in touch with her, and she's like, if you've ever talked to Doug again, just tell him thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wow, cool. Well, you're welcome. Thanks for saying so.
Yeah, well, Doug, thanks for being on the podcast. I like to keep these to about a half an hour. I would say, folks, go to this website, sign up for it. I've taken the courses myself. Doug's got the credibility. He has the expertise. And if you want to change either your life or you want to help other people change their lives, this information is life-changing. Doug O'Brien, thank you so much. I really mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart.
All right. We'll keep in touch.
All right.
Talk to you later, Doug. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to The Greg Dwyer Radio Show, brought to you by motivational speaker Greg Dwyer on buildingfortunesradio.com. Check out Greg at gregdwyer.com. Be sure to download his ebook at gregdwyerebook.com to stay focused on what matters most to you. That's www.gregdwyerebook.com. We want to thank you for listening. Now go make a difference in your world.